Hello, everyone. Thank you for being a part of our webinar, second one in a series of webinars. And our topic today is discovery and validation with scientific method, the lean startup approach. So we appreciate your presence here and hope that you will find this session not just informative, but also inspiring, which will be provided by two distinguished speakers that we have lined up for today. So first one is Milan Zdravković, a lead researcher in applied AI with over 20 years of international and cross-sector experience. But not just that, he is also a respected university professor. So today, Milan will share insights into the integrated lean startup method, delve into the build, measure, learn loop, MVPs pivoting for scientific startups, and all of that supported by examples from various industries. He will also provide us with a unique bird's eye view of lean science from an investor's perspective. After him, next speaker is Alexander Pisemskiy, a very well-known technological entrepreneur, and also a cybersecurity expert, tech innovator, and advisor with over 17 years of experience in the field. After his talk, we have the interactive session. It's called Pitch Your PhD, Investor Pitch Simulation. And with the help of a volunteering researcher, a PhD student, we will walk through the process of presenting PhD work as an MVP for potential investors. And this can be very helpful in uncovering strengths, weaknesses, blind spots, opportunities, everything for improvement of the research. So before we go deeper into the webinar, I would like to mention that this event is organized by the EURAXESS Startup Hub Network, and that is a collaborative program initiated by research and funding organizations from 7 countries: Bosnia and Herzegovina, Cyprus, Estonia, Israel, Luxembourg, Montenegro, and Serbia, and also with the participation of numerous external stakeholders. So if you want to know more about EURAXESS Startup Hub, you can scan the QR code shown on the slide. And all of this is supported by the European Commission under the EURAXESS project and represents an initiative facilitating researchers' mobility, of course, and also their career development. So EURAXESS acts like a bridge connecting researchers, universities, businesses, all of that to create a thriving ecosystem of knowledge exchange, of opportunities, and all of that is free of charge. Finally, stay tuned for other webinars in this series of webinars. In February 2024, our topic will be conceptualize your deep tech startup idea, learn your way through AI state of the art. April next year, teamwork in a startup, team building, managing talent. October 2024, creativity in problem solving and decision making. And at the beginning of 2025, we will talk about receiving feedback and pivoting in a startup, how to grow. One more thing I want to highlight is that during the talks, please feel free to add any questions you may have, but do it in the chat, because after the talks, Milan and Alexander will be happy to answer to all of them. And I want to inform you also that this session is recorded and it will be published online. So you can find the link of the recorded video on the EURAXESS Startup Hub portal. We are very excited about the knowledge sharing journey that we expect today. And once again, thank you for being here today. Now I will pass the virtual podium to our first speaker, Milan Zdravković. Milan?
Thank you, Masha. Thank you for your kind introduction. So our first talk today is kind of overview of the concepts arising from the lean startup theory, which was set by Eric Ries and published in his pivotal book in 2011. It's about the lean startup methodology, which is basically a method for managing and building a business or startup, not by doing it in a conventional way, by looking at the competition, by building a long-term business plans, by investigating the market thoroughly and in much detail, but in fact, by experimenting and by testing and by iterating through the development, by using the feedback that you get from this testing or verification or validation process. So basically, you are developing products based on the findings from those tests. This is the way to do business, to create, let's say, some entrepreneurial venture in a world which is led by innovation. So if you have innovative product, there is no market for it because you're building something new, in some cases even from the scratch. So in the most ideal case, you don't have a competitor. So you need to see whether the market is ready, whether there are users of your future product, whether they are willing to pay for it, how much they are pay for it, and what's their perception of the thing that you're trying to offer. When we're speaking about innovation, this webinar and the series of webinars is basically intended for the scientific entrepreneurs or people working in the academic landscape, working as researchers in academia or in research institutes or even in industries, but with intention, desire, or commitment, or even passion to build their own startup and to turn their own scientific results first into innovation, then into some successful business or successful startup. So this is basically the goal of whole this initiative Masha mentioned, EURAXESS Startup Hub. Our goal, our vision is to support the researchers in this journey. And one thing to do, how to do this is to implement this kind of series, which presents the basic concepts and which introduce some of the things that researchers need to know in order to get on this train and start this journey. And we believe that the lean startup concepts are the things that are some of the most important because they change the perception of future entrepreneurs, which are used to, as I mentioned, to conventional ideas, to conventional frameworks, and to conventional roads by looking at the loans, by looking at the credit loans, by looking at banks, by looking at investors, by using long-term visions, long-term goals. So now, when I looked at the results of our, let's say, invitation to register to this webinar process, I'm very happy to see that a vast majority of the participants, vast majority of you are coming from the academic landscape, you are already researchers, so you already have some idea on how to start this journey, or you just have a desire to do so. And we truly hope, and I can speak on behalf of my colleagues, that this webinar and all the other webinars in the series will help you to make this decision. So, as I mentioned, the lean startup concepts is based on the experiments. It's based on something that you set as a kind of hypothesis, and then you validate this hypothesis, and you validate this hypothesis in a process which closely resembles what we know as a scientific methodology, as a scientific method. The scientific method is rigorous, scientific method is formal, and I can see that lots of things are intertwined when we are looking both in the scientific method and lean startup development. And this is why we are looking to set up this lean scientific startup approach in order for both of the worlds to be combined somehow and to create some kind of synergy between the people with the different backgrounds even. We are in a very happy place as researchers and scientists because innovation in the most ideal case comes from the science. Science is the main crucial source of innovation. And when we put things that way, we can identify the huge advantage of researchers over non-academic innovators in the entrepreneurship. Some of the things that we have in our scientific worlds are quite helpful in pursuing this mission. For example, since recently we are talking a lot about the open science, about responsible science. The thing about the open science is that it opens all our scientific results to everyone, not only to our colleagues, but citizens, by society at large. And this is good because it enables the early insight into community as a whole into what we are trying to do, and maybe opens the way or opportunity to identify problems better, to conceptualize problems and even solutions better, speaking from the scientific perspective. As you maybe know, if you have maybe heard since recently in the AI world, I mean, that's my world, so I will use some of the things that are recently, let's say, happening in this community. In the AI world, there is huge debate of whether AI advances, AI results, which are, as you know, probably disruptive and really big since the publishing of large language models. You heard about the ChatGPT. There is huge debate about whether these results should be open or not. You know, closed science is knocking at our door again in 21st century. So it's quite difficult to imagine that, but this is happening. The arguments for closed science are that there are kind of existential risks from artificial intelligence. This is not even debatable. This is inherently wrong, and there are many scientists to support that, what I'm saying. On the other hand, there are some scientists saying that there are actual existential risks, and source of those risks or source of this argument could be also the desire to get a competitive advantage, which is, let's say, a pretty strong hypothesis argued by many, not only by me. But open or closed, we are still at the well of innovation, and this puts us in very specific positions, very specific role of the future entrepreneur. As we know, the science is rigorous. Science is very formal. Science is systematic, and science is logical. I mean, because it has to follow the path and follow the road in which we don't make any doubt about the theories that we set. The theories as, let's say, end results of the confirmed theories as end results of scientific process aim at basically investigating and understanding some kind of natural phenomena by acquiring new knowledge and by providing explanations about the world around us. When you look at this, let's say, academic definition, I can make it very simple. I can simplify it by saying that if we talk about, especially if we talk about responsible science, we can say that scientists are there to connect the dots between the different aspects of the problems. When I say problems, I mean societal problems, societal challenges, to some partial or complete solutions of those aspects of the problems. So science, in this way, is a kind of a road. It puts the roadmap from the problems we identified. Some can be very big, some can be very, let's say, even hidden, to the solutions of part of those solutions. For example, you spotted that there is you have a colleague or friend who mentioned to you that there is that he spotted that there is that he or she has lack of vitamin D measured in the blood sample, and also at the same time got some symptoms of the depression. And this is something, I mean, this is kind of finding, very individual finding that you could catch on and maybe put in the context of wider scientific research, maybe trying to establish if this is only individual, let's say, occurrence, but also some kind of phenomena you would like to investigate and understand. So this is how the science works. It starts from the individual examples and then try to set up experiments in which these examples are confirmed as a kind of phenomena, and then based on those you set up some hypotheses and do some future investigations. We will be shortly talking also about that. But the way science do this is, as I said, rigorous. Is it formal? And it is always all the way trying to minimize the bias, try to minimize errors, try to minimize subjectivity in order to provide reliable and verifiable information. So even if there is some kind of correlation between the level of vitamin D and the severity of the symptoms of the depression, you would like to investigate what is the cause and what is the effect in this process. So the correlation is not the same as causality. And you can see that from the graph presented in the right-hand part of this screen, where there is obviously correlation between worldwide non-commercial space launches and sociology doctorate awarded in the US. I mean, even if there is a correlation, it's very reasonable to conclude that there is no causality, and this correlation is in a way accidental, and it can be probably very, very easy to prove. So science fights with this bias. Science fights with those potential sources of the errors and subjectivity. How? By setting up the controlled experiments, by establishing the environment in which the experiments are executed, by looking at the samples and surveys which are used in confirming the hypotheses, which are representative, which are prone to sampling bias, for example. I mean, let's look at the problem we mentioned in establishing the association between the level of vitamin D and incidence of the clinical depression. We could start from some kind of clinical group where we do some testing, and lots of the results will depend on the sample size, for example, how big this group is. So if the group is smaller, there is larger probability that our results will be biased. Also, if the members of this group are aware of the scientific hypothesis, maybe they will not be so randomly selected, because they will put some extra mile to join to this group because they are interested to solve their own depression problem. There could be measurement errors coming from that. There could be a problem of duration of this study, because if there is some time lag between occurrence of lack of vitamin D and the clinical depression symptoms, that we need to consider this time lag, and this time lag needs to be smaller than the actual duration of the study. We could have even publication bias. I don't know if you know about this, but when you look at the scientific publishing process, you will more likely be accepted with a contributed paper if your experiment proves something. And there are very few papers disproving some hypotheses. And no need to highlight that those papers are as important as those which are affirmative, which are more positive about the hypothesis. So, but this is kind of a burden we all carry in academic world. Publication is only one part of the stories. Just as a kind of reminder, key steps of scientific method, that also for those of you who are not coming from the academic, let's say, community, those are the typical steps of the scientific method. You start with some kind of observation, like you got the individual or one and only information and let's say implication that there could be a relation between the lack of vitamin D and depression. Then you set up the question. Question could be, is there a statistically significant correlation between those two occurrences? Then you do the research. So you look at the scientific literature, you look for the if someone already answered this question, or somebody put this question, or if there are some arguments supporting or in favor or not towards this question. And then you set up hypotheses. And this hypothesis is one of the most important part of the scientific methodology. You set up the statement you need to prove. And this statement could be like, there is a negative correlation between the levels of vitamin D measured in blood sample and the likeliness of occurrence of clinical depression or severity of clinical depression symptoms. Sometimes those hypotheses can include some quantifications. So to quantify the levels of vitamin D in the blood sample and the severity of the depression symptom. Then you do the experimentation. So you design the experiment. You take into account all those possible issues I mentioned previously, like all the biases, all the potential sources of errors and other problems. Then you carry out the experiment. In parallel, you do the data collection. When you do the data collection, you take care of the measurement bias. When you have data collected from some, for example, sensors, you need to take care that there is sensor drift. All those sensors are reliable and they work throughout the period of experiments and many other things that you have to take care about. Then you do the analysis of the results. This can be analysis of correlation, regression analysis, or any kind of other analysis. And then you make a conclusion based on the results of the analysis. You say that the hypothesis is confirmed or not. And in the ideal case, it's like a binary state, confirmed or not. Sometimes in academy, you have partially confirmed, you have some other, let's say, arguments. With some arguments support the hypothesis, some are not. Typically, in those cases, this case is the diagnosis that your hypothesis is not enough explicit, or that you have some bias. In this case, basically, you go back at the beginning of the process and you set up a new hypothesis, and then you try to fit them with your results. But that's not the finished process. Then you work on communication. You need to communicate your results to the relevant community. You suffer peer review, so you're a subject of criticism from your colleagues. And finally, you go back based on the peer review results. You go back to the beginning of the process through several iterations, and you do refinement, and you refine your work in order to get the best possible, not only results, but also the impact of your process. So there are some other examples of scientific hypotheses. You can look at the left. It's in the fintech business or fintech industry or fintech research, to say. Machine learning model trained with historical market data and new sentiment can predict short-term stock price movements more accurately than traditional technical indicators. So it's this hypothesis is understandable by some of you who are in statistics or in machine learning or in fintech world. There is another hypothesis from those of you coming from basic sciences. Inhibiting a specific enzyme identified in a disease pathway will lead to a reduction in these symptoms in vitro and in vivo. Those are the examples of scientific hypotheses, and as you can see, they are not taking into account some of the quantified arguments, quantified features. Among those, you can spot some variables that you use also in experiment. Some of those are, let's say, we call dependent, the ones that are being changed and measured. For example, on the left-hand side, for the left-hand hypothesis, there is improvement of accuracy over traditional technical indicators to be 10%, 20%. On the right-hand side, some level of reduction of disease symptoms. Those are this dependent variable. How do you track this variable? By changing the independent variables. Like a machine learning model use, training data period, selection of new sources, method for sentiment classification for the fintech case, and the dosage and concentration of the inhibitor for the right-hand case. And there has to be some control variables that needs to be kept constant. Those are the, let's say, basic conditions of the experiment, and you can see those listed. But now we are getting to the point connecting the science with business. Science is all about scientific results. Science is all about solving problem, and the business is about selling the solution to some of the specific problem. In order to be sustainable, business has to have in its disposal a product or service that can be sold on the market. So what's the common thing? The common thing for those two worlds is that both of them are related somehow to the consumers of this solution, both to the scientific problem and both to the value or growth hypothesis we will be talking about shortly. So who is benefiting from those confirming hypotheses? Solving problems basically does not necessarily save the world. And we all know the classic example of this is a huge scientific evidence of climate changes, which we have at our disposal for years, and basically offer a solution. Those solutions are related to the increased use of renewable energy changes and the other things that are very clearly highlighted in different green deals, green agendas, and different high-level political documents. But somehow people still do not understand, and people still do not adopt this as a problem, because if they did, we will be living in pretty much different world than we are living now. So this is one example showing that science cannot exist detached from the community or the community in large or the group of people or some customer segment that will benefit from the solution offered by the science. So who benefits from confirming the scientific hypothesis that we mentioned? So first, there are individuals, like in the first case or first hypothesis, there were investor traders, and the other case, there were obviously patients, and of course, indirectly society at large. Besides individual society at large, there are also business companies, other companies who transform the scientific result into innovative product or services. So we now coming one step closer to businesses. We want to somehow mature the scientific hypothesis that we define to something that also involves those benefits, this kind of impact. And this is why we're talking about going from problem-focused to beneficiary-focused hypothesis. The first two things that are kind of major concepts in the Lean Start theory are value hypothesis and the growth hypothesis. So value hypothesis addresses the question of whether a product or service, which is kind of embodiment of the scientific result in our case, delivers values to potential customers. So this is something that the first thing that we need to solve to pursue the scientific entrepreneurship career. It looks difficult, because you don't have access to the market. You have to be connected somehow to those customers. You need lots of customers, but do you actually need lots of? And you need, of course, finished product. So, but do you actually need all this? So maybe we can start with a group of potential customers, and we can call them early adopters. This is another startup concept that is very, very often frequently used in this Lean Startup theory. So we will start with these early adopters. Do we have to start with the whole product? Maybe not. Maybe we can make some kind of prototype that will only implement something that you consider crucial for problem resolution. So we don't have finished product, we don't have market, and we can still try and see if we can confirm the value hypothesis. Once we confirm it, then we are in very good place, and we can start talking about the growth, about scaling up. And this is what is later validated by checking the growth hypothesis, which addresses the question of how the startup will acquire and how will it retain customers at scale. So at this point, we are not talking about early adopters anymore. So we are talking about the broader audience who is there to confirm that we can scale up some value that we have already proven. And the metrics we can use here is kind of user engagement, user growth rate, adoption rate, and many other things. So here are some exhaustive number of examples of value hypotheses in different worlds. So I hope that all of you can find something that you can understand here, because you're all coming with a different research backgrounds for different scientific disciplines. This is why I put more, let's say, those value hypotheses in order to demonstrate the difference between scientific hypothesis and the value hypothesis. Let's take the example of a biotech startup, the first one. Our drug discovery platform will reduce the time required for identifying potential drug candidates by at least 50%. That's scientific hypothesis. So we are going to propose the drug discovery platform, and this will reduce the time required for identifying the potential drug candidates. And even we have quantification by at least 50%. And what we also have, leading to a 30% increase in R&D efficiency for biopharmaceutical companies. So this second part of the value hypothesis here, I mean, you don't have to write it like that. This is like also very explicitly put in order to understand the difference between the solution we are trying to solve and the actual interest of the market to adopt this solution. So our value hypothesis says that we are going to promise, and we are promising that we are going to have 30% increase in R&D efficiency among customers. So those are the biopharmaceutical companies are customers in this case. And you can see the customers of every one of the products or services involved in different value hypotheses highlighting blue. So for agricultural tech startup, it's farmers; for environmental startup, general population; for material science, manufacturers, and so on. So spend some time to check these hypotheses and maybe use it as an inspiration in your pursuit, your attempt to transform or, let's say, improve or mature the scientific hypothesis to the value hypothesis. You will be having the access to these slides, and also you will be having access to the videos recording during those talks. So I hope that this will make you think also about your own case. So what about the growth hypothesis? Remember, we are now thinking on whether we can, so we have proven the value and we have shown that there is value proposition besides this. So we are now talking about scaling this up and see if we can go beyond early adopters towards general, let's say, audience, a more broader audience. So how we can set up the growth hypothesis for biotech startup by the end of the year. So we have the timeline, we have the, let's say, deadline for the confirmation. We aim to increase our partnership with the pharmaceutical companies by 50%, resulting, again, in a 30% growth in revenue from collaborative research projects. So not only that we have a growth hypothesis is 30% growth in revenue for coming from projects, but also we have indication of how are we going to achieve this. For example, in case of biotech startup, we say we aim to increase our partnership with the biopharmaceutical companies. You have similar to value examples of value hypothesis. You have those examples also for the other startups. They are also aligned with the value hypothesis for agricultural tech startup, for environmental startup, health tech startup, energy tech startup, and material science startup. So again, spend some time by looking into those after the webinar and see if it can inspire you to set up the potential variants of growth hypothesis in your case. Because this is something that you do at the beginning of the process. You don't wait for the value hypothesis to be confirmed to set up the growth one, but you set it up at the beginning. Of course, you can change the targets in between, but it's very important to know the indicators at the very beginning of the process to identify what are you going to track, what are you going to be measuring. Because you remember, lean startup is all about experimenting and measuring. And lean startup is also about iterating through this process. And here we're coming to the central concept of the lean startup theory, and this is this build, measure, learn loop. Coming from creating something, then this testing something, learn about it, and then coming back again by taking into account the feedback from learning into the new designs, improved designs of the product. Are we making a product because this is very expensive? No, we're making something called minimum viable product, or MVP. This is the word many of you already know, some of you maybe not. So the first step in this build, measure, learn loop is to design hypotheses we have been talking about and to build this MVP. MVP is the most basic version of a product, but this version of the product, as I mentioned before, still embeds the critical things that solve the problem. So they still provides value to the users. They still provides value to the early adopters. So here we are now with something that we didn't take a lot of time to make because it's completely different than the marketable product. We are now able to quickly test our assumptions. We are now able to quickly test and support value hypotheses. So we can get the feedback, we can make improvements, meaning that this is kind of iterative process. And here we are with another concept for Lean theory. It's continuous deployment. So it's not the case that we are, let's say, building a product, then we release it. And then we are working on improving it and working for years. And then another 2 years, we provide and we put into production the second version of the product. No, we do the incremental small improvements and continuously deploy those improvements. Why? Because we want to test those improvements and see how the customers respond to it, and immediately change our strategy if we don't get a good feedback from the customer. So this is why we have this continuous deployment process. So in doing so, during all this loop, we are doing the testing of value hypothesis, and we are also testing the growth hypothesis. There are different ways to test value hypothesis. One is the, let's say, split or A/B testing. Split A/B testing is basically testing in which you give one group of users one kind of MVP and then another with another, let's say, functionality. And you see, then you look at how each of the group will be responding. There is famous example of Google testing the color of the search button. And some of the users of the Google search engine were offered the blue button, and some others were offered the green button. And of course, you know which color won. And if you don't know, you can open the browser and check out for yourself. So once you have all those results coming from those testing, then you make a conclusion. Remember, the scientific process, and in let's say Lean Startup, you make a decision on whether you're going to pivot or persevere. So pivoting is another concept for the startup world, and basically pivoting is a fundamental change to the product, or to the service, or to the target audience, or to the business model. I mean, with those three things, I think we get it all. So you do the fundamental change because there is something wrong with value hypothesis or your growth hypothesis. And you can do this early in the process, because you are doing based on the findings from the MVP. So you're maybe in the sixth month of your startup. Also, it's very quick process. It's very short iterations that you can do. Pivot is something that you can see all around. I don't know if you know, Airbnb company started with a, let's say, initial name of the air bed and breakfast. And this air came from air mattresses. The initial idea of the founders was to offer some homeowners opportunity to, let's say, offer or to sell some empty room in their homes by putting the air mattress there and by offering this air bed to the some of the guests. And typically this is offered in cases of some large events where you cannot find the hotel room. So this is basically some kind of offered alternative to the hotel accommodation. But when they start, it appears that customers did not take this service because of the air mattresses, of course not, or because there was no available room in the hotels around, but because spending time in, let's say, this home sharing scenario gives you some kind of new qualitatively different, immersive touristic experience, because you get to know the host, you are living in the home, which is somehow breathing the life of the local culture or local community. So it's completely different experience. No need to conclude that they did this other direction. They removed the mattresses from the equation and they focused on offering this kind of experience. And we all know that they were very successful in that. I mean, in this loop, you have some other aspects like customer development. This is something also new and different from the traditional businesses, where you continuously, constantly engage with the potential customer in order to get this the feedback. And also another concepts of innovation accounting, where you don't track only typical financial indicators in order to measure the progress of your startup, but also you check some unconventional wise by looking at, let's say, innovation rate, by looking at patents, by looking at growth and the other aspects of this scientific process that you have embedded in your lean startup. And finally, this last concept of the lean startup, among those most important, is this iterative validating learning. This learning is highlighted because you learn from the findings coming from the customer engagement about your hypothesis, and you immediately implement this kind of feedback and this this experience that you learned about into the new versions of your product. In a way, you always have evidence-based product. I mean, your product is always aligned with the customer needs. And this is why I'm highlighting so much this difference between the conventional way and this new way, because you probably know about this difference between the product-focused businesses and customer-focused businesses. We are already going back in the past, because this difference is something that was spotted early before this startup lean theory was set, and it obviously opened the door for thinking about looking more into customers and how the customer respond to the product, and looking less into the product. Because when you are exclusively looking into a product, you can be very easily biased and self-confident and very happy about the things you do, and very easily close your eyes over some more than obvious flaws and problems you have with your designs. So here are some examples of MVPs of scientific startups, our imaginary scientific startups, for which we already set some value and growth hypotheses. For biotech startup, example is small scale in vitro version of the drug candidate with basic testing capabilities. For health tech startup, a functional prototype of the medical device with only core features. So you can see in those statements that we are very moderate here in offering MVP. So we are highlighting some basic critical things. When you, if you listen to Eric Ries, in some cases, MVP can also be a PowerPoint slide. Or if you're doing, when you're in software engineering, it can be some no-code framework or no-code implementation of the idea you want to pursue. So it can be something very, very basic that you can build even in days. So if you have access to early adopters, and if you are confident those that respond of those early adopters to MVP at the level you are offering to them will be credible and relevant, then go for it. So then minimize the detail, minimize the technical, let's say, architecture you're using, and highlight only the critical things that you want to prove or disprove. And those critical things are coming from your value hypothesis. And now at the end of this journey, we can see that this business world and the scientific world can very well live together. And this is kind of evidence of it, graphical evidence, because we are coming back to the scientific methodology where we have observation, question, we have research, but now also besides research in literature, we also have market research and research of competitors. Then besides scientific hypotheses, we also have value and growth hypotheses. Besides experimentation, and we have also MVP that we can use for experiments. Besides data collection, we have hypothesis testing and split testing. Then we have analysis of results, which is pretty much the same like in scientific world. As a part of conclusion, we have the decision whether to pivot or persevere. As a part of communication, we have customer development. And finally, as a kind of synonym to iteration and refinement, we have this concept of iterative validating learning. Obviously, those two worlds are really intertwined, and I would really like to finish with this, that we scientists are already living in startup ecosystem, lean startup value system, because those processes very closely adhere one to another. So responsible science is also about the scientific results which address the needs of society. What we say is a kind of very nice and politically correct explanation and definition of responsible science, but it's also something that is very well aligned with all those bad businesses, because it's saying also that our scientific results need to consider the potential of our customers to buy the solution we are offering. So responsible research and innovation is customer focused and impact driven. This is what we are talking about. So if you want to stay in the scientific world, take care about this, that you need to expand your perspective well beyond the confirmed or denied hypothesis. And you also need to look into the impact. You also need to communicate your result, and not only to communicate, but also to get the feedback from the potential customers. And if you want to come to the academic world from the business world, you need to know what you're looking at. You need to understand that the scientific process is formal and rigorous, but it's for your benefit, because formal and rigorous process will lead as a bottom line to the best results and to the objective confirmation, proving or disproving your value hypothesis. So again, thanks a lot for your attention. And at the end of the session, we will be looking forward to your question. Thank you. Masha, you can take over.
Thank you, Milan. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. So as we mentioned, please feel free to write it down if you have any questions in the chat.
Yeah. So today I would like to tell a bit about like the view and the perspective of both founder and investor in startups, where is the significant scientific component. Just a few words about myself. Yeah, so I'm a cybersecurity engineer, and I'm like for more than 20 years specializing on focusing on entrepreneurship in technology. So I, together with my friends, we started our first company being the students of the university, and this was like the idea of fighting cybercrime on global level. I successfully exited this company about 10 years ago, which turned me to become also an investor to support other technological companies around the globe, which I believe and I understand as the market and as the product. So mostly this is tech, and I have built about the portfolio of more than 30 companies so far, and like continue to be founder and entrepreneur. So right now I'm a CEO and of AI company ZenPulsar, and also I continue to invest. So and from the perspective of like difference of projects which are in my portfolio. So one of them, which I would like to also tell a bit about, is a company named Surf Brothers. This is the engineering company which is creating artificial waves for surfing on real surfboards, which could be placed in cities and like like really bring the ocean and this sports closer to people who live in like big cities that are far away from oceans where are the waves and nice beaches, etc. And this is actually very it's really scientific business. So the heart of all this development, all this big machines is the a lot of engineering design, modeling of fluids, hydrodynamics, and like our engineers were actually creating like from the scratch all the wave setup. So starting from the construction, the floor, the reef, also pumps, because there were no pumps on the market which are suitable and reliable to push such big volumes of water and be in the same time green in terms of consumption of electricity, heat extraction, etc. So like we invested in this company, I think that's about 5 years ago. And it was a pretty interesting experience because this was really early stage. There was the prototype MVP of one section, one meter width of the wave, which was filled with water, and a powerful pump was pushing the water fluid through the installation, and there was ability just to use a surfboard to stand on it and see that it actually works. So this was like the type of the MVP where we started, and then decided to build the first full-scale station, which again had required a lot of improvements on the go, because like MVP and the final product, these are really big different things, and you always need, as the entrepreneur, to see how to improve and solve problems which appear to be, and like and this was like one of perspectives where I was an investor, and being an entrepreneur. Today, I'm like focused on development of our AI company. We're specializing on transforming of social media buzz into investment intelligence. So we analyze like billions of data posts from social media from 18 platforms. We clean the noise. We using more powerful NLP to extract what people are talking about, to profile users, to understand who they are they bots or they are influencers, market analysts, etc., and then transform all this information into market signals. So that which could be used by professional investors to trade. So this is also a pretty resource and scientific consuming business, which requires a lot of data science, a lot of computation, a lot of research. So to be really ahead of other players on the market, and of course development of current AI technologies, LLMs and other models, and democratization of computing power really helps to really progress very fast. But also our competitors do the same. So it's like the business where we I am operationally involved. I am responsible for finding product market fit, attracting investments, development of the team, growth, etc. So this is something that I live right now through, and having the a very hands-on experience. So speaking about the perspective of the investor. So investing in startups is very risky thing. And as like more early stage is, there are more risks on that. So like it's investors usually have a kind of their own profile and investment mandate, how they invest, where they invest, and this significantly defines like will they be looking at your company, at your project as a potential investment opportunity or not. And speaking about like types of like companies they investing, there could be like really different stories. So this could be like software companies where there is a pretty understandable like development cycle, easy way to find product market, more easy way to understand to find product market fit, and like a time to market could be like half a year or with MVP and really like start to generate revenues. But if we speak about startups where is the like more deep tech or more scientific component, this could require much longer time for development of MVP to finding the product market fit, and much more resources to be spent for in development of the product. So like biotech, some like energy, space industries. These are type of areas where investments and time to market are like much longer than in like, for instance, software, or for example, software business. And each like investor comes to the position when he needs to understand like what is the risk of investing into the company, and what is the opportunity or that it creates for them in terms of multiplying the money invested. And as as early you invest, so more like multiplier you are relying you're looking for. So like right now, people who invest on like pre-seed or seed stage, especially in risky areas, looking for multipliers of 100x of their investments. So for instance, if like there is an angel investors who puts 50K or 100K dollars in your company, he like thinks that he will get out of this 10 to 100 million dollars on the exit. So these are the game of numbers which investors are looking for. And when they look at the startup, they have like several things which they focus. So first is the market. This relates to what Milan talked about, is the understanding of the problem. What problem is the startup solving? So is this problem real? Because in many situations, like we as like entrepreneurs, inventors, come up with the problem with hypothesis, which we think is real and very important. But in the fact, the market doesn't see this as a problem, or this is not the problem which they need to pay money for. And the size of the problem also relates to the competition on that market. So who are the competitors? How right now this problem is solved? What are substitution closest alternatives to the solution which you can offer? And these are things which really impact the vision and the and the decision of investor to invest. And another thing also which you need to think about is how the market will develop. So you need to have vision on the future, like, and depending on what is your time to market, it should be vision like 3, 5, or 10 years ahead.
Alexander, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So another thing which you need to think about is is how a market is growing, how it will develop. So if you have the product, your idea is something that will be like will have time to market in 3 to 5 years. This is the horizon which you need to look at, and this should be in your vision. So your vision, when you which you build around your business, should be telling about the future, which your company and your product will be a part of. And this defines the scale and the size of the investment opportunity for investors, which they look at. So depending on the on the business and how and the sector and how the investors are confident in them, so they may either use their own expertise or engage some experts on the side who can help them to understand the market situation. So some of funds, they have very strong research teams which focus on development or on research, for instance, particular area. So for instance, quantum computing or space tech. And they work with experts, they work with many researchers released to understand, trying to build their vision of how these markets will develop, where which parts of this market and how will grow. And they use this intelligence, they use this analytics to look at the startups and the projects with whom they are speaking to. So for instance, with quantum computing, there could be different problems around in this sector, but some of venture funds can focus only on the software providers who can who provide solutions to manage qubits, to manage information exchange within them, etc. So something which is where they can have good expertise and where they can minimize the risks. And this is something that I will try to tell about later. So after understanding the market, so what you need to do is show how you solve the problem. What is your vision of the solving particular market needs or customer needs, and this description of major capabilities, value which your product can generate. And here, we can talk about MVP, something that is every startup starting with. So this is the solution which, as Milan said, solving really the basic but mandatory part of the problem. And how you what is your MVP significantly depends on the type of business which and sector which you work in. So for some of the projects, you can create something pretty robust and which easy to test, which easy to demonstrate to potential customers, to investors. And for some of sectors, you may see only you can provide just like very basic things and be focused more on some theoretical or like scientific like calculations, but not on like a real application of the of your MVP. And this like understanding of how you can test your hypothesis depends on the like what are you building? Are you building a technology which should be a part of some other bigger product, or and you have like the strategy of exit to sell to like big corporation like pharmaceutical company or technological company or space tech company, or you are building like the product which will deliver the value to the final customer. And depending on like your vision of what you're doing, this could be different types of products and MVP. So speaking about MVP, especially in scientific space, it's like it's the crucial thing to demonstrate the feasibility of the idea and of the concept. So like MVP demonstrates that the capabilities of your team, that your the research which was done is applicable to the real world, and there are ways when this solves customer needs. So how to approach this in the best way? Ideally is to build MVP with some of your potential customers. So these are early adopters with whom you need to start talking as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. This like doesn't matter if you don't have anything real to show them or real to integrate and to elaborate on, but these communications help you to understand the real problem and validate your hypothesis, to make you be more sure that the problem, how you see it, is really the problem, and your customers really feel this pain which they would like to be solved. And working with such early adopters helps dramatically, because you can build your MVP together with them, which significantly reduces the risk of like difficulties on that stage, so that your MVP will not really be needed by the market, because at least you will have one customer which really wants it, which will really wants to pay for it. And you need to be smart here to understand how this like product concept, MVP concept, then could be scaled. So how scalable and repeatable is the solution which you're building. And I think that the biggest thing which many of founders forget about when they develop the project. So just a second, please. Is like how investors thinking about the investment opportunity. So there is like they have number of startups in their pipeline. Probably some of them like working in pretty the same domain, and especially if they have like industry focus on like biotech or on like space tech, green energy, etc. So they have several startups which doing pretty close things. And when they see the like there is a market, there is a particular opportunities which like new technology, new solution could fill and like grow really big business. So where is the multi-billion-dollar markets? So they see there's several companies which are like going in like same direction, and they need to choose where they need to put their money in, because this is always always a chance that the project will not fly, and like the investment will not pay off. So like the in average like only 5 to 10% of startups from the portfolio of investors really achieve good results. All the rest are either dying completely, so they write off the capital which they invested, or like demonstrates pretty like linear growth, which is not what venture investors looking for. So that they always want to spot these champions and how they can de-risk their investments. So what are these options for with what are like the de-risking? What does it mean? So first of all, it's the team. So the team on the early stage is, I think, that one of the key areas where investors are looking at, and because like this is likely the only more or less tangible asset which they are investing money. So when they invest money in few people who have idea, who have their vision on the market and the solution which they can build, they have the capacity to build a solution. And like this is actually, this belief is something that is sold to investors. And the team is like really, to see the team, to understand them is really critical for investor. And in scientific startups, what I've seen, there is often like brilliant, there are often brilliant PhDs and scientists who have like amazing researches, etc., but they lack the commercial understanding. And investment and the business is about selling and about generating revenues. So the ability to solve the problem is just a part of the equation. So there should be the vision how this technology could be commercialized and how it can like bring money to the company and to investors. So that's why when you like build your team, be sure that you have a good balance of like scientific and business view on capabilities in your team, so that can give you much more chances to be really successful, because like all the business is about selling. So you can make amazing product, you can make have amazing technology, but if no one buys it, that like the company will feel itself bad, really badly. So what investors are also like looking at about the previous experience in business. So like investors like serial entrepreneurs, so who did previous businesses, successful or not successful, probably it's not so important, but this is a factor which really adds on. Financial discipline understanding how to manage financial parts, so how to budget, spend the money, control expenses, etc. And what is also important is ability to pivot. So what's like every investor like understand that before the company will become successful, if and when, so they will highly likely have several minor or like big pivots on their way, which could be like the market, business model, customers, problem they solve, etc. And the team which drives the business, which drives the project, need to be like ready for that, so that to see as Milan showed, like with this like lean startup cycle, you need always to test hypotheses and understand, does it make sense? Is there like something valuable which we're creating, or this is like something that we need to drop and refocus on another hypothesis based on the data which we collected. And this is something that you will need to do constantly until you find the really what is the problem, what is the solution which you can make, and like reach the product market fit, which is like really important. And it's and product market fit, it's not only ability just like to close one or two deals. It's the thing which when you see that the market really starts to pull you into it, so that you find the problem and your solution is good, so good that market really wants it, so that you see that you spend much less efforts on really growing your business. So this relates to product, this relates to sales channels, this relates to your marketing, etc. So this is like really important important thing. Another de-risking aspect is traction of your MVP. So if like what I already told briefly is like the best way is to work with some of your customers. So early adopter, which can be like a kind of a playground, so your partner in building your product. So that's why like when you start, think about who from your network or like network of your network could become such type of customer / partner. Maybe they will be also be ready to be on your board as advisors, or will invest as angel investors. So this gives a lot of confidence, a lot of additional credibility that the product and the problem which is being solving is really important for the sector and for customers which they target. So what other aspects of de-risking is like defensibility of your technology. So there is no market where there is no competition. So if somebody you think that you're creating something so unique that there are no competitors, it's really a big mistake, because there are always competitors which you need to think about and which you need to understand how you will like win the markets from them. So this could be different ways how you can achieve this defensibility. Like first are patents, so something that relates to your IP. If this is really unique unique development, unique technology, unique scientific base, so you definitely need to invest money in saving in protecting this asset, and this gives like huge upside to your capitalization and to attractiveness of the company for investors. And another thing is understanding what is the competitive advantage, which make you being standing out from a list of the competitors. So what makes you really unique? What will help you to win the market? Because this, like, if you get into markets with other players, you have maybe not a Red Sea or Red Ocean, but sometimes it's already pretty crowded, and you need to justify yourself in front of customers, and there should be dramatical improvement comparing to what they already have. Because like if you like work, your customers are big B2B customers. So for them, it's very difficult to make the transition from one product to another product, because it requires a lot of work from their side. So for them to like move from provider A to provider B, this should be something really, really valuable. So something that makes the effort reasonable, and they will be ready to do this. So you always need to think about this. And what investors also like to ask, what is the time to market if someone will decide to do the same thing which you're doing today? So how quickly they will get to the level of the product which you have, how much money they will require, and what type of skills, etc., etc. This is something that you need also to be ready to answer, as this like demonstrates the defensibility of what you have. So probably this everything that I wanted to like tell from like the investors perspective, which is like combined with what like I'm currently doing as CEO, like as like being from like both sides of these discussions. So I hope this was useful, and I'm really happy to answer your questions if any. And we have the like pitching time, so it will be, I think, very interesting to hear about your projects and try to understand what you're doing and ask a few questions for them. Thank you.